Greenland, a land with a green name, is almost entirely swallowed by ice.
No one knew that beneath 3 kilometers of ice, a hidden world existed. A world buried for millions of years, where giant canyons, underground lakes, ancient fossils, and even signs of life still silently persist. Scientists began to look through the ice. What they found changed our understanding of Greenland and raised a bigger question. What truly sleeps beneath this cold earth? And what will happen if the ice melts? Greenland, Earth's greatest ice desert. Greenland is a land of paradoxes, with an area of over 1.34 million square miles. But contrary to its immense size, Greenland is almost devoid of humans.
Over 80% of Greenland's land is buried under a massive, ancient, and cold ice mass.
So still, it has become an absolute symbol of immobility.
That ice sheet not only covers the surface but also presses down on the bedrock below, pushing the island's center below sea level.
From afar, it looks like a frozen continent, where time is locked under kilometers of thick ice. The center of Greenland is truly an ice desert. Snow falls season after season, never melting. Temperatures are so low that all forms of life are pushed back. No light, no vegetation, no movement. Even this ice sheet has caused the island's center to sink, creating a giant basin completely hidden. Contrary to that absolute coldness, the coastal edges occasionally reveal fragile signs of life.
Mountains rise like isolated island peaks. Deep fjords, sometimes created by ancient glacial flows.
And in summer, the rare and short summer, some temporary green valleys appear.
Like dreamy oases in a white hell.
Greenland, after all, is not just an island, it's a self-contained world, where the cold not only kills life, but also seals history, mystery, and the planet's oldest memories. Ice cores, Earth's climate diary. Hidden deep beneath kilometers of ice is a treasure trove that scientists liken to Earth's giant diary, and each page of it is written in snow. Over millions of years, snow continued to fall on Greenland, layer upon layer, compressed into ice. But what's special is that each ice layer is not just frozen water.
By drilling deep into the ice and extracting long ice cores, researchers are turning pages of climate history.
They can read major climate fluctuations, like the latest drought period 12,000 years ago.
One of the most astonishing discoveries is that some ice cores in Greenland are over 1 million years old, meaning this ice sheet once survived multiple glacial cycles and global warming periods.
At some points, they found frozen soil, leaves, branches, fossilized fragments from a time when Greenland was not yet frozen.
These traces not only prove that Greenland was once a green land, but also show that the ice sheet can disappear. There was a time when the ice melted enough to reveal tundra vegetation, allowing ecosystems to flourish. All of it was then reburied under miles of ice. So, when scientists look at ice cores, Greenland once lost its ice, and if that happens again, the consequences won't just be a chapter in a textbook, but a living reality, right before humanity's eyes. It's hard to imagine that the place now buried deep under kilometers of ice was once a vibrant land. But evidence from the cold ground is telling a completely different story. Greenland was not always a land of ice. In an old ice drilling project by the US Army in the 1960s, researchers unexpectedly found something. Fossilized plant fragments, including branches and dried leaves, buried under over a mile of ice.
These specimens were preserved almost perfectly, as if they had just fallen to the ground not long before.
But in reality, they had been there for over 1 million years.
An ice-free, lush green Greenland, and possibly once home to diverse flora and fauna.
This discovery completely changed scientists' perception of the Greenland ice sheet's sensitivity to climate change.
It turns out this massive ice sheet once disappeared, not in a fantastical dream, but in measurable geological past.
And what's more alarming is that if it happened once, there's no guarantee it won't happen again. Under the gaze of science, the Greenland ice sheet is not just a covering over a cold land, but a seal locking away a lush green past that once existed. Buried landscapes, deep canyons, and hidden mountain ranges. For most of the world, Greenland is just a huge, flat, monotonous, immobile ice sheet in silence. But scientists have now proven the opposite. Beneath kilometers of thick ice is not a flat land. Thanks to ice-penetrating radar technology and modern satellite data, scientists have seen what no one had seen before.
Steep rock walls, deep canyons, and unnamed mountain ranges.
Prominent among them is a giant canyon in the north of the island, stretching at least 466 miles. And
This canyon may have been formed by an ancient river that flowed through Greenland before the Ice Age began.
then, 2 million years later, it was completely buried, lost beneath an ocean of ice. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, literally. On Greenland's bedrock map, scientists also discovered a series of hidden mountain ranges.
Deep within the ice.
Some of the highest peaks rise through the ice, like Nunataks, barren rock outcrops named by Inuit people.
This ice sheet, over 2 million square miles wide, not only covers the terrain but also pushes Greenland's central land below sea level.
In fact, if the entire ice sheet were to melt, Greenland would no longer be a single landmass, but an archipelago, with coastal plateaus and mountain ranges emerging as islands surrounding a water-filled depression. And perhaps the most surprising thing is not how thick the ice sheet is, but what it's hiding. Impact crater and subglacial lakes, the mysterious world beneath the ice. Not just mountains and canyons, the bedrock beneath Greenland's ice also bears large scars, evidence that this place once witnessed shocking events from outside Earth. In 2018, scientists announced a groundbreaking discovery, a giant impact crater, about 31 kilometers in diameter, located deep beneath the ice in northwest Greenland. They named it Hiawatha Crater.
Radar data shows that the crater is perfectly circular, with sharp edges and the typical structure of a meteorite crater.
But it's not just limited to traces from meteorites. Greenland also harbors a surprising subglacial ecosystem. Subglacial lakes. To date, over 50 such lakes have been discovered. They don't exist on the surface, but lie silently in the dark, between the bedrock and the base of the ice sheet, where pressure and geothermal heat cause some of the ice to melt silently over the years. This process occurs silently, but reveals that the Greenland ice sheet is not as static as we thought.
Immortal microorganisms. When life defies the final frontier. Ice, dark, and silent. These words seemed sufficient to describe the world beneath kilometers of thick ice in Greenland. But what scientists discovered goes against all definitions of life. Because in that seemingly completely sterile environment, life still exists. Under miles of ice, in isolated underground lakes, ancient microorganisms are still silently present.
Some bacteria have even been revived after being extracted from ice cores over 120,000 years old and are still alive.
These microorganisms survive not thanks to sunlight, but by a strange metabolic process called chemosynthesis.
Some bacteria were even found at the bottom of subglacial lakes, where high pressure and extremely low temperatures would kill most modern organisms.
In summer, when the ice surface melts, dark spots appear on the surface. These are cryoconite holes,
where dust, bacteria, and black algae grow in tiny meltwater pools.
The existence of these organisms raises questions that shake biology. If bacteria can live under ice in the dark for thousands of years, can life exist in harsher places, like on Europa, Enceladus, or even Mars? Greenland, surprisingly, becomes a living model for exoplanetary worlds. An icy gateway to the possibility of life in the universe. In that seemingly immobile ice sheet, something is still breathing, slowly, patiently, and persistently, as if Earth itself is silently holding on to the oldest memories of life, waiting for a day to be discovered. Climate is changing when the ice begins to cry. For centuries, Greenland was considered an eternal ice fortress, where time seemed frozen along with the perpetually white snow cover. But now, what was once immutable is beginning to melt, and that's no longer a distant warning in climate textbooks. It's reality.
In recent decades, scientists have observed an unprecedented acceleration in the rate of ice melt in Greenland.
On average, the island loses 250 to 300 billion tons of ice each year, a colossal number that continues to increase. But those numbers aren't just on charts. They are clearly visible from space, through satellites recording winding blue streams.
In the summer of 2012, and again in 2019, satellites recorded an unprecedented phenomenon, ice melting across the surface.
Even in areas over 3,000 meters above sea level, where it was previously frozen year-round. And by 2022, something unthinkable happened. Rain fell on the summit of Greenland. Never before in recorded history had this frigid summit witnessed free-falling rainwater.
Not stopping there, temporary lakes formed from melting ice can disappear overnight.
Water pours into ice crevices, straight into the core, lubricating the base layer and accelerating the slide of the entire ice sheet towards the ocean.
Under the influence of temperature and terrain, ice doesn't just melt, it flows faster, as if being pulled from the continent by the warming ocean itself. From above, Greenland is gradually transforming into a scorching mirror, where the sun reflects through dark streaks. These darker areas absorb more heat, accelerating the melting process even further, creating a dangerous feedback loop. Greenland is no longer static. It's moving, flowing, crying. And every melting drop is not just a sign for this island, but the clearest warning about the future of global climate. Rising sea levels, a warning from the north. Not every change in Greenland stays in Greenland.
As massive ice blocks break off, melt, and drift into the sea, the consequences are not confined to the North Pole. They spread globally. Each year, the amount of ice melting from Greenland contributes to global sea level rise by about 0.7 to 1. It may sound insignificant, but when accumulated over years and decades, the impact becomes clear.
In worse scenarios, if climate change is left unchecked, that number could exceed 20 centimeters, equivalent to over. And if the worst happens, if the entire ice sheet covering this island melts, global sea levels will rise by over 7 meters.
Imagine coastal cities like New York, Bangkok, Amsterdam, or Ho Chi Minh City. All will face the risk of being permanently submerged. But the danger doesn't just come from rising sea levels. When the ice melts, it reveals ancient layers of soil.
Geological patches once compressed for millions of years. The change in pressure from ice loss can disrupt geological activity,
Activate cracks, or affect groundwater systems. And it's at the ice edges, where glaciers are retreating.
Greenland, from a seemingly remote land, is now the source of the strongest warning for the rest of the world.
Resource rush. Treasures within the ice. As Greenland's ice sheet begins to retreat, it not only reveals ancient traces or mysterious ecosystems, but also uncovers an immense geological treasure trove that has been sealed for millions of years. And this treasure trove is fueling a new rush, not for gold, but for the strategic resources of the 21st century.
Beneath Greenland's ancient rocks are unimaginable, valuable mineral deposits. Geologists have confirmed the presence of
Space. Among them, rare earth deposits are essential raw materials for modern technology, such as smartphones, electric
engines. Many mining corporations from Australia, China, and Europe have gradually taken over this area, awaiting the opportunity to. Not just on land, Greenland's offshore areas also hold huge potential for oil and natural gas.
Dundas. Although harsh weather conditions and remote locations were once major obstacles, now, with a warming climate and modern.
Previously, some exploration projects were carried out on the west coast, with clear signs of oil and gas presence.
However, in a surprising move, the Greenland government decided to halt all new oil and gas exploration activities in 2021.
Citing concerns about climate change and a commitment to environmental protection.
That was a strong statement, that Greenland is not willing to trade its ecological future for short-term profits. Nevertheless, the resource fever has not cooled down. Arctic chessboard, Greenland and the 21st century power play. From an ice-covered land seemingly on the sidelines of the modern world, Greenland is gradually becoming a strategic chess piece in the global geopolitical game.
Not just because of the hidden resources deep underground, but also because of the island's geographical location.
During the Cold War, Greenland was where the U.S. established Camp Century, a strategic military outpost in the North.
But few know that deep beneath Greenland's ice, a certain nation also secretly carried out Project Frostfang,
Although this project was eventually cancelled, it still shows that Greenland has long been part of a global chessboard.
Absurd. More recently, in 2019, Greenland unexpectedly became an international focal point when the U.S. government.
Although immediately rejected, this move clearly showed that Greenland is no longer a forgotten land, but a keystone. China has also recognized this early on. Through investments in infrastructure, mineral exploration, and scientific.
Global warming is causing the Arctic ice to shrink, opening up new shipping routes where Greenland plays a role as an ideal transit point between Asia and Europe.
At the same time, the untapped fishing grounds and resources beneath the Arctic Ocean seabed also increase the strategic value of this region.
Amidst this silent but fierce competition, Greenland is no longer an outsider. It is a link in the global chain of influence, where superpowers are silently repositioning power, and every move is carefully calculated, not just on maps.
The dream of independence and the cost of resources.
When Greenland's ice sheet melts, not only do ancient subglaciers. As an autonomous territory of the Kingdom of Denmark, Greenland currently has its own government and parliament. But aspirations for full independence have never disappeared, and it is the wealth of natural resources that makes that dream more concrete than ever.
To become a truly independent nation, Greenland needs economic self-sufficiency, which still depends on an annual
Resource extraction, tourism development, fishing, and expanding other industries are the directions being considered.
But at the same time, the question arises, is the price for rapid growth too high for this fragile Arctic nature?
The Greenland government has shown a remarkable stance by announcing a halt to all new oil and gas exploration activities.
That's not just an economic decision, but a declaration about the future, that Greenland will not chase every short-term opportunity at all costs.
Today, Greenland actively participates in Arctic councils, international forums, and climate treaties, with an increased...
While the world looks at Greenland as a potential resource mine, the people there see it as part of their identity, soul, and sacred responsibility. Between two choices, exploitation or preservation, Greenland is weighing not only immediate benefits, but also